today to listen to Dr. Maja Krzic speak today in part of our TerreWEB seminar series. Maja is an associate professor in applied biology in the Faculty of Land and Food Systems and also here in forest sciences. She's one of the original TerreWEB program co-applicants, and she's recently back from sabbatical, just starting in January. Maja is a real leader in collaborative research and education in soil science, if you're familiar with her work, particularly using multimedia and distance education. She's won many awards for her innovative work, including last year the Soil Science for Society Award by the Canadian Soil Science Society. And today she's going to be showing us a variety of different projects and resources that her team has been working on over the past few years. So thanks very much, Maja.
Thank you. Well, I guess I have to correct you, Julie, because it's not me who won lots of awards. It's this consortium that won lots of awards recently. So that just, yes, it's nice, but it also sends a message that we are onto something. So I thought it would be probably a good thing for TerreWEB students to give you an overview what this group has been up to for the last 10 years, and that's how long our official collaboration has been going on, and it's still going on, and I hope it will continue to grow because there is a need for something like that. And I would like to open this presentation with the reasons why in general there is a need for something like that, not just here in DC or in Canada, but around the world as well. And I would like to start with these educational or learning goals that have been identified for post-secondary education and for students who are enrolled in post-secondary education in 21st century. And they have been identified by Association of American Universities and Colleges, which is the equivalent of Canadian Association of Colleges and Universities. They're universal and they apply to pretty much any area of study, including soil science. So according to these rather lengthy and worthy goals, our students that we are educating right now have a daunting task ahead of them because they have to cover much broader perspective and array of goals than students of my era had to deal with, just because the world is simply becoming, or not so simply, becoming globalized, and we get to work with each other, wanted or not, in many, many different ways. So our students have to have a good knowledge of various culture, various physical and natural worlds or environments or ecosystems, if you want to. They have to be focused on various engaging and big questions like global change or global climate change, and these questions have to be relevant and enduring, so it has to be of a global scope. In addition to that, they also have to have various intellectual and practical skills such as, but not limited to, inquiry, analysis, critical thinking, creative thinking, so that provides them with skills and good grounding that they can apply in real life or in real professions once they get out of universities with their degrees. They also have to be of various aspects of personal and social responsibilities, including intercultural knowledge and competence. So it's not just enough to focus on your own city or your own province or even your own country. You have to go beyond that. And last but not least, they have to be able to work in these interactive, collaborative environments through which they can demonstrate application of knowledge and variety of skills and responsibilities to new settings and complex problems. These are not my words. But they do apply to what we are doing, and it applies to pretty much what all the universities around the world are facing, and they have, when we are thinking about our current programs and curriculums and courses, we have to keep these things in mind, and we always have to keep ourselves, if we are thinking of revamping and changing something or introducing new things, are really going to allow our students to do this. And it was very exciting to put forward the application for TerreWEB a couple of years ago, just simply because there was an opportunity to do that and to do something that was very different from somebody who is coming from natural resource sciences like myself and Suzanne would usually apply for. So it allows us to broaden our disciplines to other different disciplines which we usually wouldn't consider, like communication of science, just as an umbrella term. Anyhow, so to bring it a little bit closer to my topic that I know something about and I love, soil science, because that has a slightly, all I said applies to it, but there is a different framework for soil science than for some other natural resource disciplines. One of them is, and that's a big one, that enrollment in soil science programs around the world, especially in North America, is declining or has been declining for the last 2 or 3 decades. There are many reasons why that is the case, and we can discuss just that topic to the end of the day. But I just pulled out 3 that are most obvious and probably easiest to explain. The first one is obvious to everybody. The world is becoming increasingly urbanized place. About 50% of us currently live in cities, yet in post-Second World War days when soil science and similar sciences were flourishing, that was not the case. And soil science has been traditionally trapped, I'll say trapped, in the agricultural faculties and curriculums, and as a result, well, originally it was there because there are lots of strong ties between soil science and food production, and after Second World War, that was the agenda on the mind of people around the world. We needed to boost the food production, and that was the aspect of soil science that at that time was really important. Still is, but it's by no means the only perspective of soil science. As soil scientists know, there are many other disciplines in which soil science participates or contributes very much so, forestry being one of them, but environmental science is another one. Urban agriculture as a different sub-discipline of agriculture is another one that's emerging. So the original population of soil science students, which were farmers' kids, is no more, especially not in developing countries. In the United States and in Canada, we have farming population that comprises 1 or 2% of the overall population. Well, surprise, surprise, if they are the main source of our students, well, we are not going to have many students and we can't do business as usual. That's one point. Another reason why this enrollment in soil science has been especially recently declining is this lack of visibility of our discipline in high school programs or curriculum. It's not a surprise if you have a kid in high school or if you go even to a bookstore and look through books for kids and youth. It's a striking thing for a soil scientist to pick up one of those books or many of those books, and you start with a section with great rocks and nice colors and all of that, which is great, and then immediately from there you go to plants. Well, plants do not grow on rocks. I know that, you know that, but kids might not know that, especially if he or she lives in the city and he never really observed any plant grow anywhere. It's a glaring omission, and it's something that it is our responsibility as soil scientists to do something, and I'll show you what we are trying to do about that particular topic. And then something that we as soil scientists and educators can do by far the most, where we can have the biggest impact, is to change our curriculum, to change our approach to teaching and preaching about our discipline that we love. Soils are beautiful and exciting, but not everybody knows that, and if you hit people with the same old approach in teaching and visuals and showing them all artifacts of the old equipment, or something that's being done 50 years ago does not cut it today. So we have to think about different ways how we can package, if nothing else, our story that we get across, and we make this discipline more exciting. What has been done around the world to change and address these shortcomings of the decreasing enrollment in soil science programs, and yet address all of those goals that I showed you that our current students of 21st century are faced with. Some programs have pulled themselves out of the faculties of agriculture or agricultural programs, and they reorganize them by developing interdisciplinary programs and branching with other disciplines like environmental sciences, and that's been proven to be a successful path. And others have tried to include more active and collaborative learning approaches, and one of them is problem-based learning, and the Faculty of Land and Wood Systems here at UBC has adopted that in late 90s, early 2000s. Others, and many of them are doing this one way or the other, are trying to develop various, and I see I'm even outdated here, I use word or term, web-based. It should be really online, multimedia, any kind of interesting transmedia teaching and learning resources, objects, tools, you name it. We should fully utilize the opportunities that these other ways of teaching are available out there, and go for it. So to bring it even closer from the global situation to our current situation in BC, and how did we end up with this virtual soil science learning resources in BC. Let me give you just a little bit of a background what was going on in the past. The soil science department at UBC was established in 1955, I believe, and over the years it grew, and its heydays it had 10 faculty members at its peak. And unfortunately then, for us soil scientists, in late 90s, there was a restructuring between the Faculty of then Agricultural Sciences, now Land and Food Systems, departments, including Department of Soil Science, all got disassembled. At the same time, when it comes to soil science, key faculty members retired, and they never got replaced for whatever reasons. So the number of faculty members at UBC, which used to be for 4 or 5 centuries the central hub of soil science in our province, shrank. It didn't completely disappear. Obviously, we are still here, but our numbers are smaller relative to what they used to be. At the same time, other centers throughout the province opened. In mid-90s, University of Northern BC opened in Prince George, and there were several soil scientists who were hired over there at that time. There are also soil scientists at other institutions across the province. So at the present time, the total number of soil science faculty members in the province is around 20 or so, and we are distributed across 5 different universities. So that's good. I mean, 20 is more than what we used to have here at 10. But none of these institutions that do offer some soil science courses in BC have a critical mass in terms of faculty members. What we also don't have is no hiring coordination, so we do have certain subdisciplines of soil science nicely covered, and there is an ongoing strong research, but there are some other fundamentally needed subdisciplines of soil science that we have nobody, or we have just one person in the whole province. For example, when it comes to soil formation and pedology, we only have one scientist at UNBC. None here. I mean, less is bad, but he's not teaching that. So, you know, you have to think about, well, I tried to convince my deans that they should hire a pedologist here at UBC. I gave up on that idea, and I moved on. I now ask Paul from UNBC to teach my students about soil formation because technology allows me to do that and there is willingness to do it. So it's not all doom and gloom, even though it looks like it. Another thing that was very fortunate when it comes to our VSSLR group or consortium was that at the time when there was this kind of hiring around the province of soil scientists going on, these new technologies were coming into the full force, and also that was accompanied by willingness on the provincial side to financially support these non-traditional new methods of teaching and learning. So there were lots of openings of fundings, that sources that didn't exist before and that were now available for us. They were not huge, so I'm not talking about anything in ranges of $1 million like biotechnology can bring, but nevertheless, one can do quite a bit even with a little bit of money if one is creative. So timing was right. There was obvious need across the province for collaboration because we realized we couldn't do it in our shrinking immediate environments, and there were other emerging ways how we could help each other. And that's exactly how in 2004 this group or consortium of virtual soil science learning resources was established. It kind of started from a project that visionaries like Art Bomke and Les Laukolich and Chris Crowley and Maureen Kent started even much earlier in mid-80s. They developed a couple of educational tools that were posted on videotapes, and you would roll in the TV with a video player attached to it and play the videotape. And I did this actually in late 90s, and I thought this is so great because it was great. I couldn't show certain soil types to my students because simply we don't have them here in Vancouver, and I couldn't take them on a field trip. Yet it was essential for them to see those soil types in real-life situation where they're located, hence technology. So there was that videotape. It was sitting on the shelf. I was aware of it, but I know it's missing some components, and I called upon my colleagues Paul Sanborn and Kent Watson from Thompson Rivers Universities. We applied for funding, got it. We went, we filmed what needed to be filmed. We put that first product together. We thought this is great, and that was the beginning. And 10 years later, here we are still doing it. We are showcasing what we are doing. Others bought into the idea, and if they thought it was useful and they showed even a little bit of interest to join us, we trap them, and that's how you get your collaborators. It grew. I'll show you how it's done. And a couple of speakers last week brought that point really well home. If this is the route you want to go, you have to be prepared to constantly revise, re-edit, revamp, change, not just content, but platforms, how you are offering your content, because things are constantly changing. What's relevant this minute is not going to be relevant a couple of months from now because something else showed up and it might be a better way of getting your message across. Anyhow, kind of we finished 11 web-based / online educational tools or resources, plus one means that we have another one on the go that we just started, and Julie is helping with that, with a couple of other wizards who know the technology really, really well. Then, in addition to that, we also put together 2 distance education courses. Both of them are in early on years of the post-secondary education. One is 100 level and the other one is 200 level. You can start wherever you want. We started with these 2 simply to try to reach as broad audience as we can. Applied Biology 100, Soils and the Global Environment, is meant for Faculty of Arts students. So the idea is to get the message across to those students who usually wouldn't or traditionally wouldn't take soil science course. What is the importance of soils in various global issues that are happening around the world right now. So we have 2 distance education courses. Interestingly enough, we have 1 field course as part of our collaboration. On its own, it doesn't have anything multimedia technical as its component, but all the material that we develop through our group can be, and it is actively used as a background information. So students who enroll in this course are told to go and review material that's online. They can access it while they're in the field as well, so the material is always handy. And then there is 1 cross-disciplinary graduate program. Can you guess what would that be? What is this? TerreWEB, yes, because Suzanne and I and Les happen to be also VSSLR members as well. When we were writing the proposal for Answer Create, we told them, well, look what we've done. I mean, fund us. So they did. And last but not least, we started as a small, non-planned, ad hoc group who wanted to go to the field and was happy that can film soil in the field. And then we grew into a bigger BC-based group, and then others in Canada caught up on what we are doing. And 3 or 4 years ago, our BC initiative became a Canadian initiative because we have members from Ontario and Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia and Alberta. I think that's about it, but I have to rope some other regions as well. There is interest. Canadian Soil Science Society is also very supportive of what we are doing, and it provides us an excellent platform how we can, expand even further. I will get to this, but this is our website, so if you link on that or click on that or go there, you'll see everything that has been developed so far, and links for everything that we put up is there. But I don't want to risk it, so I will start with my screenshot from various websites. So if I clicked on that link, this would be the home page of our website, on which everything is nicely organized and shiny, and it's so lovely, and our web designer even won us an award for the Best Creative Web Design from the Canadian Network for Innovation in Education for this particular website. Anyhow, the reason why it's here, besides to brag about how wonderful it is to show you how it's organized and generally what kind of stuff we have topic-wise. There are 4 general categories listed here, and then there are courses, soil science courses, offered in BC, and that needs to be updated because this really should go course listings in Canada. Now, anyhow, topic-wise, all of these resources can be grouped into these categories. Those that deal with basic soil principles and properties, then those that focus on soil classification, those that focus on land use impacts on soil properties and or quality, and then those that are trying to raise awareness about soil science and importance about soil science. So if I am online and I want to click on soil classification, it would look like this. Under that category, you have a list of resources that our group has developed. And you see that one of the products is on, or resources or tools, is focusing on soil formation and parent material. Parent material are basically rocks on which soils are formed. I'm just going to show you some that I think are, for whatever reason, most interesting. So if I'm to click here or here, that will take me to that particular website where that particular resource is located. The learning objective of this resource was to allow students to learn about basic properties of different types of parent materials and associated land formations. because that is one of the concepts that we soil scientists who teach either Introduction to Soil Science or Soil Formation or Pedology know is a stumbling block. It's not an easy thing to understand. It takes time to comprehend that. And one of the reasons why that is so is that these parent materials have changed over a period of time, long period of time, and they're associated with different landforms, and it's not so easy to differentiate among them. Anything that changes over time, in my mind, lands, any concept that changes over time that you are trying to teach and preach in your courses lends itself to multimedia. Because otherwise you can show them photographs and tell them imagine, which isn't so bad, because one needs to be able to imagine a lot if you want to be a good soil scientist. But they can still imagine things even if they're looking at some multimedia or online material like this. Then you also want to, if you are going to go that route, you can't do this yourself because soil scientists are not, majority of us are not the best artists and we are not the best communicators. So in order for this material, not just this particular resource, but any online resource in order to work, it needs to be properly structured, it needs to be properly executed, and it has to have, in my personal opinion, a wow factor. So especially if you are trying to lure in unsuspected young audience, if you put some hand-drawn crappy photos or figures, it's not going to work. You have to wow them in. So you have to think about who are the professionals out there who have the skills that you don't have that can help you sell what your story you want to sell. And you obviously need graphical designers like Gabriel, who's trying to sit over there in the quiet, but you need somebody who can create these things that look really, really nice. If you want to wow your audience and want them to learn. So you can show them then how a landscape and associated parent materials changed over time. So this is what we have on that particular site. Under this landscape evolution button, you can show them how a certain piece of landscape looked like when it was completely covered with glaciers 25,000 years ago in BC, in British Columbia. And then you can show them what happened then at the time when glaciers started receding in North America about 10,000 years ago. It starts to look like this, so something on the land formation starts to show. And then finally, you can also show them how the landscape looks like at the present day. So you come and show them stuff like this. It looks very pretty. On the top of that, you see you can post all kinds of attachments to a graphic. And all of these that you see here on this graph, and they were shown on the previous graphs, represent features of the landscape that we filmed or videotaped in the real life on the landscape in situ. And by clicking on each of these, you can go to the page of the website where there are corresponding video clips. They are short, a couple of minutes in length. You have an expert on the field, on the site, explaining why certain feature, like a bog, is at that particular location, how the parent material looks like, and what are the consequences for a soil to form on such type of parent material. So in other words, if I am teaching about parent materials, and I will be in my course, and there are many of them, and some of them I can show to my students on campus, but others I can't, I can send them to go and review that material on their own time and repeat it over and over until they learn that kind of stuff. So that's one feature, or one of the resources that we had. Going back to the home page, or home mother website of our group, and going to another subgroup, I want to show you how we implemented online educational tools with problem-based learning approach. So for that, we can go to this subgroup of land use impacts on soil quality. And there are a couple of tools of them. There is one created by my former grad student Rachel over there, sitting with Suzanne in the forest, on land use impacts on soil quality. So the homepage of that website looks like this. But more importantly here, the idea was to provide students in our upper level soil science course called Sustainable Soil Management, which is a cross between fourth year course and a graduate course. Students have to work on these PBL case studies. And for each of those PBL case studies, they have to get all kinds of background material and information and soil maps and so on and so on. And what we packaged here with Rachel's lead was material for one of the case studies that we are using in this soil management course. So in this particular example, the technology is completely in function or in use towards an educational activity or approach called PBL, or problem-based learning. So you have a combination of something that's online and something that's not online that it's implemented in this upper level soil science course. Then going back to the SSLR website and to another subcategory, in this case raising awareness about soil, I wanted to show you yet another approach, how you can implement these resources. And one that I want to show you is called Soil for Use. And if I click there, we will go to the website that looks like this. This is a home page. The learning objective for this resource is to rectify that lack of exposure of high school students about importance of soil. So we got an NSERC grant from NSERC's Promo Science Fund a couple of years ago as a Canadian initiative, and this was the beginning of our Canadian collaboration for the SSLR group, to develop something that could be used in high schools across Canada, so that teachers have all kinds of resources and materials and examples and links, news, whatever we thought would be useful for them in order to teach their students about soil science. Here we are using a talent of a professional cartoonist, not a soil scientist, to give us a look of this website, hoping that this kind of approach and organization would be more appealing for a somewhat younger audience. And I will now risk something which is going online to show you, because besides just showing you pretty pictures, in this one we incorporated audio as well to introduce the concept and the project overall. Hopefully it will work. Okay, it's getting there. So now I'm live and I'm on the website, and I'll click here and I'll be quiet. Do we have?
Welcome to the Soil for Youth website, a learning resource for high school students and teachers who are interested in the world of soils. Get to know the site with the help of our hosts, Ms. Sandy and Clay. Ms. Sandy is a science teacher whose vast knowledge of soils will help other teachers develop lesson plans and activities. Clay is a grade 11 student with a keen interest in the world under our feet. And then there's me, Dr. Terry Furman. I'm a soil scientist, and I help Ms. Sandy whenever she has a question. If you have a soil science question and you can't find the answer on the website, then please ask me. Click on the Ask a Scientist tab, and I will help you find the answer. To hear more from your hosts and to navigate the website, use your mouse to explore the home page. Have fun exploring the wonderful world of soils.
Sure, we are selling it shamelessly. Whatever works, I think it's okay. Okay, so that was that. I will not risk going there into the dangerous world of internet anymore. Anyhow, how do we implement all of these resources that we have so far? Well, the possibilities are really endless, but my colleagues and myself, this is what we do. We use this material in various campus-based courses. So if I stand in front of my students, and I do, every once in a while I will just to spice it up and make something, their life a bit more interesting. I'll pull something up like a video clip and show that during my lectures. Or I will incorporate that material into my lab sections or labs, and there will be questions that they will need to answer that are solely related to the online material, specific online material that they have to view and understand. Then this material obviously is used in distance education courses, and they're also used, surprisingly, maybe, or not, field courses. As I mentioned before, that BC-based soil identification and classification course, which is organized and led and delivered by several of our members, uses some of these materials, like parent material that I showed you website, as a background information. So preparation material to understand what's going to be seen in the field, and then reviewed once students go away from the field and need to write term papers about what they've seen. Also, these kind of resources can be and are used for professional development, because soil identification and classification skills are very important, not just for soil scientists, but for other natural resource scientists. And in some professional accreditation societies, they need that skill to demonstrate that they have that skill in order to get their professional accreditation. And we have a whole set of videos on how to identify, describe, and classify soils at different levels of classification system. And all of this that is created by our group is online, open access, no password, no nothing. You can access any of this wherever you are, as long as you have internet access. Obviously, you can use this kind of material to raise the awareness about the importance of soil science, not just among high school students, but any target audience so that you might have in mind, because it's way more flexible than your traditional paper-based resources. And as I said, this is the opportunities how to use this are really endless. There are many other opportunities. I know I'm using certain resources in different ways or for different purposes than I originally envisioned when I started developing them, just because I have them, why not? Also, I heard from my colleagues in various research institutions that are not educational institutions that have summer students that should have some soil background, but they don't, and these researchers don't have too much time to train them about basic stuff. They use some of these resources we put up to provide a quick education about basic stuff, basic principles of soil science, because it's online and it can be done in a relatively timely manner. So there are many, many ways how it can be, how these things can be and are used, and I'm by no means aware of full use of all of these resources. I can track them down on Google Analytics, so I can see where the users are around the world, in different cities, in different provinces, even which kind of browsers they're using. I can't get their names, which is good. I can see which of these are the most popular, which pages between each of the resources I have are more popular, and so on. So there are lots of tracking ways that are available out there for free. So that's kind of exciting. So yes, we have all of this. We use it in many different ways, envisioned and not originally envisioned. And obviously, as we speak, we are moving forward because there is no other way, because world is moving forward, and if we want to be relevant, we have to keep up with ongoing change. How to do that? Well, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Yes, use whatever is out there, but use it wisely. Don't just use it because it's flashy. If you don't have a good purpose and type of use for a technology, whatever that technology might be, it's the same principle as anything else. If it's nice and shiny toy, well, okay, it's nice and shiny toy, but if you want to use it, you have to have some kind of purpose for it. And multimedia or IT or web-based or e-learning, it's no exception. It's the same as everything else. And I think last week's speakers were saying and bringing the same point, use it, but in a proper way, so that supports your topic and approaches, educational approaches that you are pursuing in your teaching and learning. Think about connecting your discipline, in my case soil science, with other disciplines that are not most obvious. Synergies between soil science and agriculture, or soil science and forestry, or soil science and environmental science are obvious and have been established and are ongoing and are important. But when it comes in particular to soil science education, there are many unexplored synergies, like with arts and journalism and film and who knows what, history, archaeology, that we are just starting to touch upon in soil science. And they will open, not they might, but they will open for sure different areas and bring soil science forward, not just in terms of our education, but also in terms of research as well. Don't think that if you grow with online and web-based technology in your educational approach that you are going to exclude the valuable field exercises and courses, which are absolutely essential. No, you won't. You won't exclude them. You will actually enrich them. This is not a replacement for the good old traditional methods that work. This can be a supplemental thing for them or not. Maybe it doesn't work, but for the field courses in particular, when you do take students out to the field and show them what needs to be observed in the field, this provides the material that is much closer to that field situation than me talking in the classroom. Involve your target audience. In translation, involve students. Because whatever we are developing is for students, and students are the ones who are going to tell you is what you are developing working or not. And in everything that we've developed, we had them on our team from the initial idea development through the development process to the refinement and promotion that followed after that. And some of these unsuspecting characters, these are students, started working either as summer students or undergrad students with me, and now they are soil science students, or they even finished their soil science degrees. So, you know, that might happen to them, but that's good for them. Anyhow, it's important to have your target audience give you constantly feedback on what you're developing. Otherwise, it's just us soil scientists talking to us soil scientists, and we are notoriously bad for doing that. And that's why we have a declining enrollment right now. And then continue collaboration, encourage discussion, cross-fertilization in many different societies, groups that you can come across. Open the dialogue and keep it open for as long as you can. Whatever platform you can find to do that, jump on it and go for it. Because if you stop this discussion, you will stop developing and growing and becoming relevant. And that will be the end of you. So it's an evolving process. You are never done. So if you are in the frame of mind that, oh, I like to finish my project and then move to something else, you will never finish these projects because they are constantly changing. But that's what makes them exciting, I think. So at least for me, that's what makes them exciting. It's always nice to be nice. So yes, you have to say acknowledgments, but I also brought this slide for another reason here, in addition to say thank you to people or foundations who gave us funding over the years, but I also wanted to show that there is funding out there for this kind of stuff, and especially for us in natural resource sciences, there is funding in sources that we usually wouldn't necessarily look for when we are looking for research funding. Mind you, as I said, NSERC itself has a couple of funds, 2 of them are listed here, that is funding this kind of activities and research. But various universities, including UBC and University of Saskatchewan and U of T in Mississauga, have their own teaching and learning enhancement or enhanced learning programs or funds through which you can apply and get funding to develop these products. This is not a cheap endeavor. It can be cheap, but it's not going to look good and it's not going to have the full impact. There is no need to be cheap when there are sources of funding. And go out there and find people, like people in Center for Teaching and Learning and Technology here at UBC who know how to do things that you don't know. Because in order to get involved in projects like this, you don't have to be genius in terms of web design and multimedia and video and graphics and cartoons and soil science. No. If you are a soil scientist, that's good enough. You just have to find other folks who know other things, and you just go together and develop something new and exciting. And that's it. If you have any questions or if you want to browse this, I'm here. That's my email. That's the link. You can browse for more, but before we do that, questions now that I'm here in person. Okay. Yes.
Yes. Hi, you were talking about promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering, how did you promote or where did you promote your online sources? And also, what did you find worked and what didn't work? Or what advice might you have for TerreWEB students who are thinking of doing similar things?
Okay.
To do and maybe avoid?
Well, first advice is you have to promote whatever you do, education or whatever. If you want the word to spread and others to know, you have to promote. And this is no exception. So yes, we promoted this. We started, I mean, this is a 10 years, that accumulation of 10 years. So you start small. You start with one conference with small group, whoever that group might be. But then our group that originally had whatever, 3, 5 members, it depends how you want to call us. Then we all go to slightly different conferences and workshops and things out there. And I would go to soils conferences, and Chris Crowley would go to these educational conferences, and we would talk about materials that we developed, but the audience was different. So immediately we are covering a couple of different groups. Graduate students who were, or undergrads who were involved with these projects are also an excellent resource of promotion. You can put them out while you have them as grad students as your promoters, and they will do a bang-on job because they're way more enthusiastic about this than older, more seasoned colleagues are. But then these grad students also finish eventually, and they go to the real world, and they're out there, and I think they're listening on the webinar right now, some of them in Michigan. So they are your promoters. Word of mouth is another way. They go to the world. If they like it, they will say great things. If they don't like it, well, that's bad promotion. So that can happen too. But seriously, anybody who is on your team can promote it in official or unofficial way. If you can find a platform like Canadian Soil Science Society, where I could give a presentation about the whole program or just a component, or my colleagues would come and give a talk, putting together sessions on education on various conferences, that's a promotion as well. Publishing about your work is also important. You can publish this kind of stuff. That's why I was telling Ryan, who contacted me on behalf of TerreWEB student group, You can take this one step further from our natural resource science way of thinking, and I'm by no means any different than any of us here in this room, a couple of IT people. They think differently, but for good reason. They need to think differently. But natural resource scientists knows where good journals are, and we know how to publish in those, and we are primed how to do that. But there are other journals out there, scientific journals, where you can publish if you do some kind of survey or study how well are things like this working, so you can publish, and that's a promotion. Any chance you have to say something about your work is a promotion. And any member of the team has a chance to promote it. So if you have a big team, and we go to different conferences, different gatherings, and we are from different universities, they're promoting. But you have to be relentless, and you have to do it all the time, because otherwise people will not necessarily know about that. There are other things. Again, I'm only talking in my own way, but I just remembered I saw Saeed. And there are other ways. You can meta tag. Is that the terminology? You can tag each of these websites in a certain way that you are getting more hits than your competitors. So if people are searching on Google for soil formation, and if I have a proper meta tagging, which I do because of Saeed, I will be among those websites that are listed on the very first page that shows up when you Google for soil formation. To be on first page versus to be on page 17 is a big difference in your promotion, because I never go to page 17, maybe page 2 or 3 if I'm really into it, but I usually stay on first page that shows up on Google when you're Googling. So meta tagging, using the proper terminology, and these are all things that I learned from Saeed and other web designers who told me first what that is, what's my benefit of knowing what it is, what's my benefit of slightly tweaking some of the titles of the resources we developed, and also of the of individual pages on the website, because things like that, who knew that that makes a difference? But it does. So it's endless. But you have to pay attention, and you have to stay current. I didn't mention, and I meant to, all of these are web-based tools. Yes, they are originally made for internet, but that's becoming increasingly so obsolete. Mobile devices is the flavor of the current moment. Luckily, our web designers, Saeed in particular, were knowledgeable enough to create everything we have in such flexible way that everything that we have translates pretty well to mobile devices. It's not perfect, but now what we are developing with mobile devices in mind, in particular phones, because they have much smaller screen, and we also have to make sure that all the videos that we have, and we have lots of videos, can translate very well on small screens. They're fine on internet, but on smaller screens, not everything works that well. That's what you have to, and that's what Hans was saying and Cyprian was saying last week. That's the stuff of the flexibility that you have to have in order to stay relevant. And if you have something that's old, and I do have one website that was created in 2003, ancient in the world of this, it's still good material, but the presentation, the format, it sends the outdated look. And it's used for my introduction to soil science course, and I hope, fingers crossed, I'll get funding to put it into Wiki, UBC Wiki, just to see will that work. It's a different format, different platform, allows students to contribute the material. It's more open for exchange of the ideas between myself and students. I think it's an exciting thing. 10 years ago that didn't exist, now it does. Anyhow, it's a long answer. But any other questions? Drew, because she's my student.
I noticed the Soil for Youth stuff is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you could speak to the contacts that
Julie can do that, because even better than I do, I can maybe give her an opening line and she can add a couple of things. That was something that we did last year, third year of that project, and we try to get as much feedback as we could, and we try to find out where do high school teachers go when they look for the online materials. I hoped for better response than we got, but I guess it's a reality. Maybe you know some numbers off the top of your head, how many you contacted.
Well, it was something like a 25%
Yeah.
response rate,
Yeah.
which it's typical, I think, if
Mhm.
you consider it a use of the survey, but we tried to go with, we were contacting teachers mostly, so
Mhm.
we had to have a look at the website and see if it would appeal to them, would they actually use it.
Mhm.
And we learned a lot of insights from that teachers were very strapped for time, and so they kind of want an activity that they could potentially use in the classroom to jump out at them. And so actually, and also how does it fit into their curriculum? The same as it fits into their curriculum, and their prescribed learning outcomes that they achieve. And so that was one of the key pieces that we learned from that, is that we need to explicitly show what prescribed learning outcomes each activity we post is actually going to achieve, so that it easily can integrate into their curriculum. And Drew actually helped us out and created some activities that we're now going to apply to CLOs too. But and I guess the project has sort of ended, and we're hoping sometime we can do it, but for the next phase, the idea is to actually try to hold some activities and integrate with other existing programs that we show to high school students, such as the use of time.
That's right.
Another thing we learned is to not necessarily train soils from a science perspective.
Mhm.
Another really good insight is that a lot of people will be interested in soils, but they're not necessarily interested in the science of soils. So gardeners and people who are interested in growing food might not have a science background, but that's really fun for that person.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to hear more questions, because every single question I can entertain for the end of the day. Carmen, you had your hands up. Okay. Yeah, no, that. Did you have a question? Yes.
I was just wondering if you've gotten a sense, either through Google Analytics or other feedback mechanisms like surveys, of who is using the website and the materials, and then maybe also how that fits with your.
Yeah, I have a little bit of sense of some of the resources. Interestingly enough, these resources are popular in California and Texas. I don't know why, but those are by far the two states in U.S. and overall that are leading the interest, obviously because it's in English. English-speaking countries, or that rely heavily on English, like Philippines, for example, show up as countries with more hits than others that don't necessarily either speak or use that in their education system. Across Canada, it's growing. I know that. What else I've observed? Certain centers, and those are probably university centers, that have that have programs that incorporate one way or the other soil science are those hubs that are using it. I also get a lot of inquiries about graphics that we have on our websites or tools for reusing that in their whatever publications or their websites. So it seems if you have good graphics, hope Gabriel is listening, others will be interested in using that. That's something that I didn't really expect, that will be a driver, for example, for this material and interest into this material. But we are just at the very beginning. We assessed or evaluated just 2 of the resources, and we are at the beginning of assessment of the 3rd one out of 12 that we have. So I simply didn't have time, and that's the direction that I personally would like to move, to see what the impact that these things are having, because you learn from from that. So far, we've been focused on generating the material and the content and just going with the flow. And we'll continue to do that, but we need to kind of slow down and reflect to see what the impact, what's going on, so that we can move further in a meaningful way. Ryan?
I was curious in your kind of discussion thinking about the decline. If you on the website have some kind of resource for job outlooks and kind of employment opportunities.
That's a good point. That's another point that high school teachers and not principals, but let's say high school teachers gave us. And that's what some other studies have shown. When students are choosing which program they want to enroll, they're looking for potential for professional careers out of that program. That's really number one deciding point that students and their parents, who do have something to say at that point, are keeping in mind. And that's what we incorporated into soil use website, because that was loud and clear feedback that we got, that you have to provide examples where somebody with this kind of degree can go and work. So we posted all kinds of examples of job listings, even salary ranges for them. And we also featured, and I'm hoping to grow that page, several professionals on the website, like people working with this kind of knowledge in very different sectors, both men and women, young and old, to show younger people where you can end up and what are the careers that these people are leading. And we try to make them as diverse, because it is the advantage of soil science is that you can work in very diverse field out there. You can be specialist, but your options where you can work are really diverse. So
you may already be aware of it, but you look at the U.S. Department of Labor's handbook for soil science.
USDA, one for high school or?
U.S. Department of Labor.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
So they cite 10% job growth to 2020. $1,000 median salary.
Interesting.
So
okay.
Pretty good. Pretty healthy.
Yes. Yes. We focus mainly on Canada because the Soil for Youth website is Canadian initiative funded by NSERC. So, you have to kind of do that. But you're right. I mean, we should look somewhere else as well. Like US is an obvious choice, because universities like UBC do heavily promote their programs in US. And actually another thing that occurred to me that we are not using, and it's out there for us, are university recruiters that every university has. UBC is one of them, whose job is to go and promote programs. Why not give them pamphlets and flashy stuff that they take with them, they need, when they go and promote. And when they're promoting, they have target audience in mind. So if they go to US, their promotional pitch is different than when they go to Pacific Rim or China or Japan. Those are biggest markets, or India now for UBC, for example. And again, material that we kind of generate, then we can share with our collaborators. Not that it will be the same, but that's one path that it's completely untouched. Surprisingly enough, but we should. So, anyhow, yes. But that's so typical. You're not unique, unfortunately. Yeah, it is. It is.
that week as well. And again, we went over very briefly, I think there's a diagram in the text that was fertilizing. And the department head and my professor were actually making a joke about how nobody's interested in soil science. And that university in particular didn't have a program, and they were kind of doing it. And I come here and I'm officially transferred, and it's so much more enthusiastic and larger. I was wondering, in terms of the consortium, are there any efforts to expand beyond DC?
Oh, yes.
That as well, should we be looking at Texas and California first? Since they have so much
Should I? Okay, I'm a Canadian and I'm soil scientist, so I'm biased. So nice opening pitch for me. I am, as we speak, trying to establish, and I think by our next conference I will have things in place to have, how it's called, subcommittee on soil science education within Canadian Soil Science Society. And the reason to have that is because over the last 5 or so years that I've been kind of building the momentum through that society, I've seen that there is growing interest and initiative from my colleagues across Canada to participate in something like this. American Soil Science Society is doing a similar thing, but they're hundreds times bigger than us in Canada and do have a bit more resources. They are somewhat better organized, surprisingly enough, because they started this education about the same time we started this, early 2000s. And it's slowly, in the last, I would say, maybe 5 years, it's slowly gaining visibility. Before that, it was really not quite out there, which tells you, I mean, it's crazy. Here we are. We keep saying to each other and crying on each other's shoulders, soil scientists, oh, it's declining, it's the end of the world. But we haven't done anything for so long in order to change that. Finally, slowly, it's changing. So yes, I mean, yes, there is California and Texas, and I'm sure, and I am trying to bridge a little bit with American Soil Science Society, and I hope if I can have something a bit more formal in Canada, and there is more of us in a formal way than this, we can then collaborate in a more formal and coordinated way, not formal, but coordinated way with US, so that we are not repeating the same efforts, so that we are more efficient. So yeah, there is way, and there is interest, and there are several examples how what we already have is going to become a national initiative, which is really exciting. But in order to be there in that position, I have to go back to what Julia asked. You have to promote, you have to inform others. It's not just promoting, but it's also saying, this is what I am doing. Who else wants to join in on another project that we will then apply together next year? Because that's how it's done. And hopefully 5 years from now, we will have something that's bigger than this. When I started my first projects on this, I had no idea where this will take me. I thought that will be it. And definitely that it will not grow to this. So that's 10 years. It's not so bad. So hopefully 10 years from now we'll be much more advanced. Then you guys are professors, and I'm retired. I'll be advising you. Will I retire? I don't know. Maybe. Sandra, you had a question a long time ago, and I ignored you.
We started with open access very early on when it wasn't a popular thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I want to get your opinion a little bit about where you think that's going. There's discussions on the university going in open access courses, and how you see that open access material. Now it's getting funding.
Well, yes, you are right. I started open access because I thought, because soil science discipline in Canada, in US, around the world, relative to other disciplines is really, really small. Want it or not, even worldwide, it's really not a big group of people. And I thought, well, if that's the case, if you want to close this and sell it, market is limited, why do it? I also come from this situation of shrinking resources, the faculty members, my group is shrinking, I need to reach out. If I'm going to reach out, I better offer something so that others will be open as well. So that was kind of my personal philosophy, and I think the open access is the way to go, soil science or education-wise. There is a buzzword, I forgot how that's an educational lingo. I mean, but you heard that big universities, Stanford being one of them, and Harvard, are putting their whole courses out there. It's all open access. I like that. What I don't like is it's supposed to be massive. So if I'm going to have a distance education or online course on soil science, it should have 1,000 students in it. No, why say big course is better than small course? Open access is the way to go. Because everybody is going open access one way or the other, and I think education should follow that course as well. And definitely disciplines that are smaller, like soil science, because what open access gives you is way more of that enrichment and idea exchange than when you might start with the best idea in the world, but if you are protecting the best idea, you know, given enough time, it's not going to be the best idea. Somebody else is going to have the other, better idea, just given enough time. And you will still be guarding your little turf, trying to earn some money. It's not going to happen with this. So open it up, and you will be better for it. And at the end of the day, your students will be better for it. So I think that's the way to go, if that's what you meant. Yes? Oh?
So, how about soil quality and pollution issues? Could this vital education gain momentum by involvement with urban gardening at schools and other community projects?
Absolutely, yes. Just because that's the beauty of soil science. Soil science is relevant for many, many different topics. What we touched upon is what was our own personal interest at the time. That being said, doesn't mean that any of those topics are better, more important than others that we haven't covered. We didn't have time. Nobody was pushing for that, but if there is anybody, especially urban agriculture, because of the global urbanization, is absolutely exciting vehicle to kind of promote soil science, because that's where the population is. That's where the need for this kind of knowledge is around the world. Those topics would be wonderful. That's one of the things that I would like to include in Soil for Use website. There is a tiny bit of it, but there can and should be more. So that's one way how I'm planning to incorporate environmental issues. Absolutely. I mean, the variety of stuff that can be included, or variety of topics that can be included is really endless. It's not just modes of how you can implement these things, but the topics as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay.